Bonjour, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, Ambassador Vimont, members of the Maison Française Advisory Board, and other distinguished guests, including students who are among our most distinguished. I'm Shani Peer, I'm the director of the Maison Française, and on behalf of the Maison Française, the Department of French, European Institute and Alliance Program, we're delighted to welcome the new French ambassador to the United States, Philippe Etienne, to the Maison Française. The ambassador will be introduced momentarily by Scott Barrett.
I'm delighted to welcome Ambassador Philippe Etienne for discussion about Europe. Before joining President Macron's team in 2017, he was the French ambassador to Germany. Before that, he served for 5 years as the permanent representative of France to the European Union. Ambassador, it's a great pleasure to welcome you here to Colombia.
Well, thank you very much, Scott. Dear friends, it's a real pleasure for me to be here today. It's a great honor also to be in this prestigious university, but also a great pleasure because I know that with La Maison Française and with the Alliance program, this university has a special link with France and a special friendship, and we appreciate this enormously. And why do we need a new start for Europe? The first issue is about economy. We have a common currency. This common currency, the euro, and the Eurozone, the Economic and Monetary Union, went through big difficulties after the financial crisis in 2008, and we had to reform it. It has not been completely reformed. It is not completely fit for a future possible crisis. But it's also about our trade policy. There is a word which is important in the trade policy today, which is the word of reciprocity. What does it mean? What does it mean fair trade in relation to free trade? The European Union stands for a free trade, but we think also we must have in our competition policy or in our trade policy, we must have the instruments to have a fair level playing field. So this is the first block of issues which have to be tackled. There is a second field which is migration and asylum. It's a shame that we were not able as a European Union to face the migration crisis. We have a regulatory framework for migration and asylum policies, especially for asylum policies, but it is not strong enough. So the idea here is really to have a more integrated policy for asylum seekers and to have a more integrated policy for the common border, which we have around what we call the Schengen area, which is the area of free circulation among our countries. The third issue is the energy and climate transition. This is a huge challenge. Our societies our nations will not face this big transition other than together, for obvious reasons. The European Union has had a real leadership in climate negotiations, and still has it. And we have quite a good performance in the evolution of emissions. But frankly, we do not do enough. And we must be efficient worldwide because it's a global challenge. The fourth policy field I will mention is the digital and AI, artificial intelligence revolution. Here, the European Union has been a frontrunner with the adoption of a general regulation on the protection of personal data. And of course, the last but not least field is defense and foreign policy. So these are the most important policy fields where the idea is the notion of European sovereignty now, tends to be really a priority. Thank you very much for your attention, and please.
So how is France looking at the, let's say, the UN policy of multilateralism within the same framework of the relations with the United States?
In France, we see, obviously, and it's something evident, of course, a real connection and interrelation between three levels: reforms, national reforms, European progress, and international action. And Europe is also a continent, or more precisely, the European Union stands for a multilateral treatment of global challenges.
I'm a student here at Columbia. I was also a student at Sciences Po, like a few of my comrades here. I had a question about Erdogan's recent intrusion in Syria. As President Trump moved out of the Syrian geopolitical context, I was wondering what you thought about Europe's response to this, and also the fact that Erdogan has threatened Europe to release barriers for migrants to Europe if we took action. Do you think Europe's response to this threat and to Trump's exit of Syria is acceptable?
Alors d'abord, bonjour aux élèves de Sciences Po qui sont ici. Vous êtes combien de France? Vous pouvez lever les mains. D'accord, ben ça me fait très plaisir de vous voir tous et parce qu'un ambassadeur français a aussi la charge, entre guillemets, des communautés françaises qui sont dans son pays, donc ça me fait très plaisir de vous rencontrer. So, to come back to your question, we have condemned as Europe, not only as France, the Turkish incursion into Syria for different reasons. And one of them was, and the most important probably, it was endangering our common fight against ISIS and the terrorist organization which have hit our nations, not only France, but in particular France. I think that the political reaction by Europe was, we were quite well aligned. Of course, when it comes to what we can do, what capacities we have, then we have the issue of the European Union not being yet able, if the US at one point doesn't want to be involved, and if our security is primarily in Europe really endangered, then have we the instruments in military terms, in security terms, altogether to come together and to intervene?
So I'm afraid we're going to have to stop there, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and talk with us, and invite you to come back whenever you'd like.
Thank you very much.